were children being killed. There were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving, and you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
Nobody's saying that everything was perfect, but there was a lot that went right. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of. For all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it. Not from my perch. It was tough in the first few hours. You would expect it to be.
The Biden administration saying there's a lot to be proud of in its review of the Afghanistan withdrawal, but the 12-page summary repeatedly placing blame on Donald Trump, saying in part, President Biden's choices for how to execute a withdrawal from Afghanistan were severely constrained by conditions created by his predecessor. Here with the reaction, former Taliban negotiator and senior Trump administration official Adam Boehler. Adam, thanks for joining us. There's a lot of ground to cover here, even within just 12 pages. So give me your take on what Kirby had to say, which is there's a lot to be proud of, not a lot of chaos.
I'll tell you what I am proud of, which is our U.S. military response. And when you look at the issues here, it's because things were decided in glass towers. At the end of the day, if you look at what happened, what went down here, it was not that the U.S. should have a big military buildup in Afghanistan. It's bipartisan that we don't need that many people. This is about execution on the ground, and it's about dates that were given people. So I'll say what I am proud of, which is our U.S. military, but I'm certainly not proud of our execution at a senior level in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I don't want to harp too much on. We saw what Biden's choices were, even if he doesn't acknowledge them. But go back to the Doha agreement, something you were a big part of. What would you have foreseen as how this would have gone had President Trump won re-election, if the agreement had been the path forward?
So the Doha agreement wasn't some kind of blank agreement that we were leaving by this date. There were a whole bunch of conditions in the agreement. And so here's what we can all agree on. Large amounts of troops in Afghanistan weren't working. Again, bipartisan view. Then there's a question of how we were getting attacked while we were down there, and how do we save the lives of our service members. And what the Doha agreement is, it stopped all attacks on U.S. troops the day after it was signed. And it had a number of very clear conditions. Those conditions were not satisfied. And so one of the things you always think about is you base a withdrawal not on a date. It's based on conditions. That agreement had conditions. They were not satisfied. So we would not have left if U.S. citizens and Afghans that had helped our military were not safe.
So under that agreement and saying that what you saw, those conditions were not satisfied. So President Trump is president. You all are helping coordinate this. We get into the summer of 2021. There's 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. Would the move have been to put 5,000 more? Could President Trump had stopped this from happening with 2,500 troops? What's the disparity there?
The disparity is that you need to do anything you can to stop something like this. And so at the end of the day, the conditions that have to be ready, if you're going to be out of there eventually, you have to evacuate folks. Now, let's keep in mind, until days before, there was no clear sign that what was going to happen was going to happen. In fact, we didn't even have a count of the number of people we were going to evacuate. We thought the number of people we were going to evacuate were 1/10 the amount of people that we actually had to evacuate. You're talking tens of thousands of people versus 1,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people. So to be clear, there was no view on the ground from that perspective. And so you don't press go unless you're ready.
Well, it looks like in the end result, you're probably wise to negotiate with Taliban rather than the Afghan government, because they obviously didn't have any interest in fighting for their country. Sorry, things
just to bring up something on that,
Joey.
Yeah, to your point, Joey, let's look at the stark contrast between President Ghani in Afghanistan and President Zelensky
We've got to leave it
in
here.
Ukraine.
Unfortunately, we got to leave it here. I do want to get you back on, and I want to talk more about this. This is an hour-long conversation. Maybe we'll hit it 3 minutes at a time. Thank you.
You got it, Joe.